What's happening, everyone? I'm Jordan, and this is Front Run Tech. And has the Bitcoin bear market cycle begun? All right, that's the big thing that a lot of people are discussing and worried about, and that's going to be the theme here as we look through the markets on this video. All right, we'll start out here with Bitcoin on the 8 hour. And of course, we know Bitcoin has been continuing to come off since failing to really set a new all-time high that really moved into price discovery, just barely setting that all-time high, and it has been dumping since. Now, since the liquidation event that had this long wick, the interesting thing you can see, we have now actually filled in that entire wick with candles, and you can see we actually perfectly filled in the entire wick with candle closes, which is pretty cool to see. And that's exactly where the current bottom took place on a closing basis with another green wick well below. All right. Another thing on the 8 hour here. This horizontal green level right here, it's green because this is the most important level right now for Bitcoin. It is the level of the previous all-time highs over here before this long kind of chop we've been in. And that was, of course, the move finally breaking out from that 8-9 month consolidation. This was the Trump run up when he first won. And so those levels is where that topped. And that is the important level right now for Bitcoin. Now, it did actually break down from that level, but you can see so far that was a fake out, and call it a liquidity grab, whatever, with a big wick to the bottom of it. Nice to see. And now Bitcoin has closed back above. It is holding that level for now. All right, so it's good to see Bitcoin regaining that 107,500 level. So that is the most important level for us to watch in the short term here for Bitcoin. All right. Now, if Bitcoin is going to continue this move downwards and it does end up clearly breaking below this level, then we're simply going to be looking for a test of the black trend line right here. All right, this initial black trend line. And as you can see, that could take us to around 100K, maybe a dip below 100K. So that would be the next spot where it would be a very big deal and would be very concerning if it then went on to have a further breakdown. But for now, Bitcoin is holding this 107, 108 level. Let's just hope that continues and see if Bitcoin can't regain some of this that it's lost, all right? But for now, Bitcoin continues to look pretty weak at the moment as it's in this consolidation and it's setting new lows. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin on the zoomed out view. This is the Bitcoin weekly chart. All right, a couple things here. On the weekly chart, Bitcoin is currently holding this horizontal level. That's number one. And Bitcoin is holding the ascending trend line. Assuming it were to close tonight somewhere around where it's at now. All right, so we haven't, you remember, we talked about these two spots right here converging. The breakdown on the weekly level of that would be a big concern, and is when we would really have to start preparing, possibly for 80, 85K prices. That hasn't happened yet. It doesn't look like it'll happen this week. It would be nice to see this upcoming week Bitcoin get a reaction off of these levels. And we'll just have to watch. Now, if we go ahead and we're going to put on the 1 year moving average. Now, this moving average is very interesting because if we go back in the cycles, the 2017 cycle, the 1 year moving average was really not relevant through here. If you look, we'll turn on the bull market support band. The bull market support band was the level in 2017. Okay, clearly was the level for bullish or bearish in that full cycle of Bitcoin, right? Now, if we come forward a cycle, you can see the 1 year starts to take relevancy. You can see coming out of the 2017 bull cycle in the bear, it tries to bounce off that level. It does bounce off that level, the 1 year moving average. Then when it breaks down from the 1 year, it retests it perfectly, gets rejected. That leads to capitulation. Okay. Then, of course, it does reclaim on the recovery out of that in that mini kind of bull cycle in 2019. And as it's coming off from that leg, it tests the 1 year, it holds it for a while, gets an initial bounce, and then boom, in March 2020, the black swan, of course, it loses it and goes way down. But then on the recovery, you can see once it recovers, it starts testing that 1 year again, finding it as support again, and then it takes off, right? Now, in the 2020-2021 bull cycle, it wasn't really testing either of these levels on the way up, right? That was a very weird cycle. It really just went straight up. But the interesting thing is that once we had that kind of medium bear market in the middle of that cycle, or some just call that the beginning of the bear market, you can see that it came down to a perfect test, bottoming at the 1 year, and then got that bounce, that double wave bounce that did set the new all-time high. Of course, that was kind of a dead cat bounce, and then we can see that it comes down to the 1 year, initially holds it. It still looks like the bull market is on and going for its next leg at this point here, but then you can see as soon as it loses the 1 year, boom, it's now really entered the bear market, has that one last hurrah, and gets rejected convincingly at that 1 year moving average, and then boom, into capitulation and the rest of the bear market. Now, if we come into this cycle, you can see the 1 year is everything in this cycle. Coming off the low, it initially tests there, gets rejected, and then boom, as soon as it reclaims the 1 year, it's off to the races. And we've had 1, 2, perfect right here, 3. We've had 3 tests. Every major pullback or consolidation in this cycle, the bull cycle, has perfectly tested that 1 year moving average and then, of course, held it and went on to the next leg. So that's where we are currently. If we lose these levels, we have the 1 year right below us a little bit. It's coming in at around 101,000 right now. So of course, that is really the line in the sand. While I would love to see Bitcoin hold right here at these technical levels that it's at, if it breaks down, you've got to be hopeful that a test of the 1 year once again could be fruitful for a coming move higher. If it were to break below the 1 year here, that would be absolutely horrible, because that just, you can see how clear of a signal this 1 year moving average is between bullish and bearish. All right, so that's what we're currently looking at on the weekly. We'll see how this weekly candle closes tonight, and we'll see how the next coming weeks turn out. All right, now we got to take a look at a few other things. I don't want to make this video too long. We'll just make it mainly Bitcoin related. If we come over here to the weekly chart of gold Bitcoin, we know that this is gold priced in Bitcoin. Okay, so when it's going up, gold is winning. When it's going down, Bitcoin is winning. I tend to look at it inverted for some reason. But we're watching as this breakout occurred on gold Bitcoin, and now you can see right after the breakout, you have the extension. So this is a legitimate breakout for gold. Not great to see, but we have another trend line coming up that could possibly be where Bitcoin could find support against gold, and it does look inevitable that gold will probably make its way up to this trend line. We don't know, but if it does, that's where you would hope to see gold reject and continue down. All right, if it does break out from there, then you've got this very clear horizontal level coming off this low over here. You can see right here through here, it's obviously acting as an important level, and that would be around 0.0574 price level. Okay, So gold is looking bullish for now against Bitcoin, unfortunately, but we'll see how it plays out in the coming week, coming months. Now, you just go back and take a look at Bitcoin as far as the 4-year cycle. Has the bear cycle begun? Now, one thing to look at here is we'll go back to the Bitcoin weekly chart. And one second, I'm sorry. We're going to take off all these drawings. So every cycle for Bitcoin, as I'm going over them with the mouse, these have all been parabola market cycles, parabolic, okay? This current cycle that Bitcoin's in has not been parabolic whatsoever. That's number one. So there's nothing overextended about Bitcoin and its price currently. Now, in the initial video that I did on this YouTube channel, which was about 4 months ago, and it talked about the Bitcoin cycles, I talked about, this potential for somewhat of a boring correction, sideways action for months possibly with Bitcoin, as we were kind of in the middle phase of transitioning from the macro Fed cycle, from tightening to loosening, easing, and how as we're in that transition phase, you could possibly see markets and Bitcoin kind of use that time for a prolonged correction, consolidation, and maybe we could see 80K, 85K prices. That was just one possibility I outlined, and today that looks like it could even be more relevant that that's a possibility. Now, if that were to happen, I mean, everyone here now, there's a ton of people that are saying the cycle's over. They're believing in the 4-year cycle and that the top is in. If Bitcoin were to go to 80, 85K and then even bounce from there, it's going to be very hard for people to not believe that the bear cycle has begun, right? That's just a fact. Whether they're correct or not, that's going to be the sentiment. I mean, we're already hitting extreme fear now. So that could really throw people off. I just don't see the setup for a 70% correction. Now, if a 50% correction were to happen, that would be, around 60 something K. I would call that a bear market. And I guess that's possible. But given the fact that we have nothing but easy money conditions and money printing ahead of us. So I just don't think that it's very likely that Bitcoin has topped here or that this cycle is over. I think that Bitcoin most likely will be much, much higher at the end of next year, 2026. And if Bitcoin were to actually correct all the way down to 80, 85K, I personally would see that and use that as the ultimate gift, right? But anything's possible, and we'll just have to keep watching how it's playing out. So, anyways, that is my current thoughts on where Bitcoin is at. We went over the technicals on the lower time frames, and we kind of went over the macro cycle theory, etc. Right? So, if you guys aren't following me on the socials, make sure to go follow Front Run Tech on X and on Nostr. The links for the socials will be in the video description, and we'll go ahead and leave it there for now. See you guys.